This is section 1 of Baucis and Philemon. Now, this episode comes from Book 8 of Ovid's Metamorphoses, and it tells us the story of Baucis and Philemon, this old couple who unknowingly offer hospitality to Jupiter and Mercury in disguise. And in this section, the gods arrive at their house. Jupiter came here in human form, and with his father came the wand-bearing descendant of Atlas. Having set aside his wings, they approached 1,000 houses, seeking a place to rest. Bars shut 1,000 houses. However, one received them, a small one, it is true, covered with stalks and marshy reeds. But the dutiful old woman Baucis and Philemon, equal in age, were united in their younger years in that cottage, grew old in that cottage, and by acknowledging their poverty, and made it light by not bearing it with an unfair mind. And it does not matter whether you look for masters or slaves there, the two are the whole house. They both obey and command. So we begin with the arrival of the gods, but not with any lightning or thunder. Jupiter comes specie mortali, in human form, alongside Mercury. So straight away, Ovid sets up some dramatic irony. We know who they are, the readers, but no one else does. Mercury is referred to as Atlantiades caducifer. He is the wand-bearing descendant of Atlas. Now, this is an example of periphrasis. Instead of saying his name, Ovid gives us this poetic description instead, not only to add elegance, but it also reminds us of his mythological identity and his divine tools. That detail about his wings being set aside, right, that we get in the middle, postis alis, meaning his wings have been set aside, is placed in between that phrase, right? We have A, B, A, B, which creates a nice little bit of balance for us. It emphasizes, what matters most. It shows their humility in that they have deliberately disguised their power. Now, there's also, as we look, a clever bit of enjambment between the first and the second line. The subject, Jupiter, is introduced straight away at the start. The verb venire doesn't come until the start of the next line. That delay creates a gentle suspense. It pulls the reader through the verse. Then we move into the description of the god's rejection. The phrase mile domos appears at the beginning of 2 consecutive lines. We see it at the start of line 3 and at the start of line 4. So this anaphora, this deliberate repetition, conveys the restlessness of the god's search for hospitality. Now, the number itself is hyperbolic, 1,000 houses, 1,000 houses again. It suggests just how widespread the refusal for hospitality is. Then we get the phrase clausere sera, this one right here. The bolts shut, or bars shut 1,000 houses. There is some alliteration in the R sounds, as well as the sibilance of the S, which gives quite a rough rattling sound, like locks being thrown across the doors. The phrase is quite short and forceful, so it mimics that suddenness and the coldness of the rejections. But then comes a turning point. Tamen una recepit, at the end of line 4. However, one received them. The word tamen signals a contrast, and una, meaning one, follows immediately after it in an emphatic position. It stands out sharply after this repetition, highlighting how rare this act of kindness is from Baucis and Philemon. Then the house is described with some poetic precision. It's small, parva. It also has straw and marsh reeds for the roof. This is quite nice, vivid imagery. It paints a picture of rustic poverty, but Ovid's tone isn't really scornful. In fact, he gives the house a kind of quiet dignity. So the emphasis isn't really on what it lacks, but on the warmth inside that we'll see later on. Then we get introduced to Baucis and Philemon, right, the inhabitants of this home. Here, Baucis is the first word, which is quite central. It means more than just dutiful, it signals sort of religious devotion, right? It comes from we get the word pietas from it, which is integral to Roman culture. Right away, we know that this household is one that lives by the values that the gods want to see. Philemon, after Baucis, is described as being equal in age. It's quite a nice detail that they are one in the same. These are two harmonious characters. Now, Ovid puts a nice bit of detail in just after that, okay, with the anaphora again of the word Elah at the start of line 7, then at the end of it, describing how the couple were joined in their youth and grew old in this same house. So the repetition mirrors their steady shared life, but look at how it bookends this entire line, right? The start and the end, it encapsulates everything. Now, quite a nice verb comes just after that. Consenure. They grew old together. This one here. It's quite a compact but rich verb, right? In just one word, Ovid has managed to encapsulate a whole life shared between these two characters. After that comes quite a well-crafted line, two lines rather, which both end in two gerunds, right? Fatendo and ferendo. They both share the same ending, which gives it the sentence quite a nice rhythmic balance. It reinforces the sense of harmony in how the couple live. They don't hide their poverty, they accept it, and they carry it patiently. And their mindset transforms their hardship. This is quite a deeply stoic idea. They make their poverty levem. Where is it? Here it is. They make it light by not escaping it, but they embrace it. And then next we're told it doesn't really matter whether you call them dominos or famulos, masters or slaves. This one and this one. Now this is a deliberate paradox. In a world defined by hierarchy, Ovid here is saying that status doesn't matter. What matters is how they live. And there's juxtaposition in those two words as well, dominos, famulos. They're placed almost side by side, right, with illic there in the middle, to emphasise the contrast that is then made irrelevant. Their relationship isn't about power, it's about mutual care. Then we get the line totar domus duo sunt. The whole house is these two people. This is a really good example of emphatic brevity or terseness. The line is short, balanced, and complete. It's a perfect match for their simplicity or their way of life. So this bit down here, the two are the whole house. The house is them. Finally then, this nice bit at the end, they both obey and command. A bit of antithesis, opposites placed side by side. Parentque, ubentque, again, that sort of A, B structure. It shows that they take turns leading and following. Not one of them dominates, but their home runs on equality and cooperation, which is quite a nice outlook for them. Now that's the end of the first passage. Quite a lot is jam-packed into there that gives us a portrait of the two gods that have come, but also the two inhabitants of the house, Baucis and Philemon. We get an insight into their simplicity, their piety, and this partnership that later on is going to be worthy of some divine reward.